Have you ever told yourself, just one more episode, just 5 more minutes of scrolling, and suddenly it's 2 a.m.? You wake up groggy, hit snooze 3 times, and drag yourself through the day like a zombie wearing human clothes. I used to think bad sleep was just about feeling tired, but it's so much more. Poor sleep steals your focus, your mood, your energy, and over time, it quietly steals your life. The ancient Stoics didn't have Netflix, TikTok, or late-night group chats and events, but they understood something timeless. How you end your day shapes how you live your life. Seneca once wrote, "The whole future lies in uncertainty. Live immediately." But here's the thing. You can't live immediately if you're constantly exhausted. I learned this the hard way. I used to stay up every night chasing one last dopamine hit, telling myself I was winding down. But the truth, I was winding up my mind so tightly that sleep became a battle, not a rest. And every morning I'd pay the price. It wasn't until I started looking at my nights through the lens of Stoic philosophy as a sacred time to prepare the mind and body for tomorrow that everything began to change. In this video, I want to show you how breaking your sleep bad habits isn't about self-punishment or giving up joy. It's about reclaiming your nights so your days can finally be yours again. And I promise it starts with small, intentional changes that any of us can make, starting tonight. A few years ago, I met On, a young entrepreneur with a mind overflowing with ideas and a calendar so tightly packed with meetings, deadlines, and dreams that it looked like a blueprint for success. On paper, she was unstoppable. In reality, she was running on fumes. Most nights, the clock would slip past 1 or 2 a.m. before she even considered sleeping. She told herself she was catching up on work or unwinding after a stressful day. But when I asked her to be brutally honest about how she spent those hours, she admitted it was a haze of aimless scrolling through social media, half watching random YouTube videos, and replaying conversations from the day in her head like a broken record. The next morning, dread always came too soon. She'd hit snooze until the last possible minute, rush through her routine, and start her day already behind. Afternoons were a slow crawl, her brain wrapped in fog, and by evening, she'd pour herself another cup of coffee just to push through the final tasks. The cycle was merciless, and it repeated day after day until she began to feel like she was in a constant battle against her own body and mind. And it wasn't just her physical energy that was gone. Her creativity dulled, her patience thinned, and even her joy felt out of reach. Then came the breaking point. She had spent weeks preparing an important proposal for a client she'd been chasing for months, a deal that could change the trajectory of her business. But the night before the deadline, she stayed up late watching a documentary she wasn't even interested in, telling herself she'd start fresh in the morning. Morning came, but she didn't wake up on time. She overslept, missed the submission window, and lost the deal. That evening, while feeling the stain of disappointment, she opened a book and stumbled across a passage from Marcus Aurelius. "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." The words hit her like a cold splash of water. For the first time, she saw her late-night habits for what they truly were. Not harmless indulgences, but silent trades. Every hour she surrendered to distraction at night was an hour stolen from her best self the next day. And in that moment, she realized something the Stoics had known all along. Your nights are not a throwaway. They are the foundation upon which your tomorrow is built. From that night on, she decided that if her time was her most precious resource, she would no longer spend it in ways that left her weaker, slower, and less alive. Instead, she would guard it like the treasure it was. The Stoics believed that the way you live each day is a mirror reflecting your deepest values. And if your days are built on exhaustion, distraction, and neglect of the body, then that's the truth of what you're prioritizing, whether you mean to or not. They didn't waste their precious hours on things outside their control, and they treated the body not as a burden to push beyond its limits, but as a trusted companion, one that must be cared for so that it can serve the mind with clarity and strength. Sleep in their eyes was never laziness. It was maintenance, a sacred duty to prepare the vessel that would carry you through tomorrow's challenges. You can't control that there are only 24 hours in a day, but you can absolutely control how you spend them. You can't erase the existence of temptation, the late-night binge-worthy series, the endless cascade of notifications, the siren call of just one more scroll. But you can control whether you allow these things to steal the hours meant for your rest. To a Stoic, digital minimalism before bed is not merely a modern productivity hack. It's an act of self-governance, a declaration that you will decide how your attention and your energy are spent. Not the algorithm, not the autopay, not the dopamine hit of something new. It's the simple but profound question. Does this action serve the person I want to be tomorrow? Seneca warned against the illusion that we have unlimited time because when we believe that, we spend it carelessly, as if we could always buy more. But if you knew you only had a year left to live, would you choose to spend a third of it half awake, dragging yourself through days that could have been vibrant, simply because you refused to give yourself the gift of rest? To the Stoics, time was the most valuable currency, more precious than wealth, status, or his possessions. And every hour lost to restless nights was a theft from the life you could be living. They reframed rest not as passivity, but as preparation, understanding that a disciplined night leads to a purposeful day. When you choose to protect your evenings, to set aside the phone, the TV, the idle chatter, you're not missing out, you're investing. You're building the mental sharpness, emotional stability, and physical vitality that allow you to face each sunrise as the best version of yourself. Because in the end, how you sleep is how you live, and how you live each day is how you live your life. First, the evening shutdown ritual. This isn't just about turning off your laptop. It's about consciously closing the mental tabs in your mind. 1 hour before bed, draw a hard line. No screens, no last-minute work emails, no doom scrolling through bad news, no getting pulled into heated debates and group chats that will leave your adrenaline spiking, just as your body should be winding down. Instead, follow what Epictetus might call closing the account for the day. Sit quietly and reflect. What went well today? What did you learn? Where could you improve tomorrow? And then, and this is the crucial part, let it go. Release it from your mind so you're not lying in bed rerunning the same scenarios. This simple practice tells your brain, the work is done, the battles are fought, and now it's time to lay down your armor. Second, the digital sunset. Just as the sun dips below the horizon, signaling the world to rest, you create a personal sundown for your devices. Choose a specific time. Maybe it's 9:30 p.m., maybe early, and from that moment, your phone, laptop, and TV are no longer part of your night. Put them out of reach, even out of sight. That hour before bed becomes sacred space, a time to return to analog living. Replace the blue glow of screens with warm lamplight. Read a few pages of philosophy that steady your mind. Journal about what you're grateful for, or what you're striving toward, or simply sit in silence, feeling the rhythm of your breathing. The Stoics prized stillness because they understood that stillness is not emptiness. It's the soil in which clarity grows. Third, the memento mori for rest. Each night, remind yourself you are not promised tomorrow. This is not about fear, it's about urgency. Urgency to live well, to honor the gift of another sunrise if it comes. And living well requires sleeping well. If tonight were your last night, would you really choose to spend it lost in a social media rabbit hole, chasing one more meme, one more headline, one more pointless argument? Or would you spend it in a state of readiness, not for death necessarily, but for life, preparing your mind and body to meet the next day with strength, should it arrive? When Anne began adopting these 3 practices, she didn't overhaul her life overnight. She started small, no phone for 30 minutes before bed. At first it felt awkward, even boring. Her fingers twitched for the familiar comfort of scrolling, but instead she took a warm shower, dimmed the lights, and let the day slow down. Then 30 minutes became an hour. Late-night scrolling was replaced with a book she'd been meaning to read for years. She began brewing chamomile tea, letting the ritual itself signal to her body that it was safe to rest. Within weeks, something unexpected happened. She was waking up before her alarm, feeling rested for the first time in years. Her focus at work sharpened. She could power through deep, meaningful work in half the time it used to take. Her mood lifted. The fog of constant fatigue and irritability began to clear. She noticed herself laughing more, listening better, even savoring her meals. Friends started commenting, "You seem different, calmer, more vibrant." And she realized the truth, and sleep was no longer a chore, something she squeezed in between real-life activities. It had become her secret weapon, the quiet edge that gave her the clarity, resilience, and energy to live each day as if it mattered, because it does. Bad sleep habits aren't just about feeling tired the next day. They're quiet thieves, stealing from your focus, your creativity, your patience, and ultimately your potential. The Stoics understood that every day is a gift, and the way you choose to end it will directly shape the way you begin the next. They didn't see rest as weakness, but as preparation for the battles of tomorrow. You don't need to flip your entire routine upside down overnight. All it takes is one intentional choice this evening. Maybe it's putting your phone in another room 30 minutes before bed. Maybe it's closing your laptop and picking up a journal instead. Maybe it's setting a bedtime and treating it like an inadmissible appointment with your future self. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." And that strength comes from reclaiming the night as your ally, not your enemy. Because when you let distractions steal your rest, you're not just losing sleep. You're trading the clarity, energy, and purpose of tomorrow for a few fleeting minutes of mindless escape tonight. The next time you're tempted to keep scrolling, binge another episode, or dive into late-night emails, pause and ask yourself, is this how I want to spend my life? In the end, our lives are made of days, and our days are built on the foundation of our nights. Protect your nights, and you'll find yourself waking not only earlier, but with a sharper mind, a lighter heart, and a deeper sense of control over your path. Start tonight, because the version of you you've always wanted to become is waiting on the other side of a good night's sleep.